If you're listening into this podcast, you are an ambitious woman. When my son was about 18 months old, where I literally burned down my entire business to the ground. And I'm sure that you have big dreams and a big vision of things that you want to do career-wise or business-wise, outside of your motherhood journey, but also you want to be a damn good mom. What I believe that our kids need most from us is us lit the F up. I just don't want you to feel alone in this journey. I want you to feel like we're all figuring it out as we go. And guess what? Permission granted to do what the F is going to light you up, because that's what our kids need to see. What I believe is right is honoring yourself. Oh my God, this is a sign from the universe that I should get pregnant literally right now. So many times along the way where you're gonna wonder who the F you are, because your identity shifts, because you evolve, because your kids evolve. The goal isn't balance, it's awareness of seasonality. What's up? I'm so excited that you're here for the first episode of this season's, my brand new podcast. If we don't know each other yet, my name's Kacia. I'm gonna be your host, and this is gonna be so much damn fun and hopefully a really impactful and refreshing podcast for you, because we're talking all about ambition and motherhood and how we integrate those two things in our life while still honoring the season that we're in. Hence the name, The Seasons, because everything is seasonal. And we're going to dive into kind of like why I started this podcast, a little bit of background about me and like what to expect. But I really want to just like set expectations straight out the gates, that I want this to be the show where you feel like you're really seen, but you also feel like you're going to have some freaking fun. Because truth of the matter is, if you're a mom, honestly, even if you're pregnant or if you're thinking about, becoming a mom in the future, you have so many tabs open in your brain right now. And if you're a mom of a toddler like I am, you might also have like a song that's playing in the background. For us, my son Brody's almost 2, and the song he really loves right now is called Dinosaur Stomp. It's like, dinosaur, stomp, 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 and a chomp, chomp, chomp. And like, oh my gosh, I hear that song like when I'm just going about my day. I'm like, I need this song out of my head. But he's like, Mommy, play dinosaur song. And I'm like, oh shit, play that back, because he's so freaking cute. So truth of the matter is, you've got all these tabs, you've got a song going on, and you have so much going on. So I hope that this podcast can also feel like an outlet where you're just like, laughing, maybe so much that you pee a little bit, or you just hear one of my guests that's on the show and we're having this like super raw conversation. You're like, damn, she gets me, or I so connect with that season of life that she's in, or how she's approaching her marriage or her business or her career, or the habits that she's building, or how she's showing up in her female friendships, or how she's figuring out her health journey, like all the things that as ambitious women, which I'm sure you can connect with if you're listening into a show like this, I'll assume that you would identify as ambitious. And as ambitious women, we understand that ambition is not just about how you show up in your career or your business. That's one part of it. And I'm sure that you have big dreams and a big vision of things that you want to do career-wise or business-wise, outside of your motherhood journey. But also, you want to be a damn good mom, right? Especially us as millennials, maybe you're a millennial too, where we care so deeply about being conscious, present parents. Like, we want to do things differently than the generation before us did, because we know more now. So we can do things differently, which requires a lot of intention and requires a lot of ambition to care so deeply about how we parent these kids. And also, we probably want to model different relationships than maybe we even saw modeled to us. So we care about how we show up in our marriage or in our relationships or our female friendships. And we want to model ambition that way. And also, we care about our health, our mental, emotional, our physical health. And we really want to show up for our creative endeavors and feel like we're expressed humans. And we understand that modeling all of that is showing our kids what being ambitious looks like. But it's also an effing lot, which means I believe you get to have this full, juicy, fulfilled life with whatever it looks like for you. But in that season, right? Some seasons we're going to lean more into wanting to be on a rocket ship in our career or our business. And some seasons we're going to have like maybe a cute little newborn potato that we just want to stare at and be like, you're so cute. And then we're asking ourselves in the back of our head, am I going to lose my ambition? Am I ever going to feel like, quote unquote, myself again? Like, am I just going to be staring at this potato baby forever and like feel like I don't even know who I am anymore? And my experience is you probably won't be the person that you were before you had a kid. You'll be a different version of you, but you might really love that version of you even better. But along the way in our motherhood journey, there are going to be so many seasons where our focus has to change based off of our desire, based off of our circumstances and our life and the dynamics in our relationships, what our kids need from us. And also because sometimes you might just have a season where you're like, I just want to burn it all down. A season I recently had when my son was about 18 months old, where I literally burned down my entire business to the ground. If you were a listener of my previous show, empowerHER, you know that show had over 12 million downloads, a huge community. I did big events and courses and memberships and one-on-one coaching and keynote speaking and earned several $1,000,000 from that business. But in June, so 4.5 months ago, June of 2025, I just felt this pull that I wanted to shut it all down. I swung the pendulum so much the other direction, really focused on just being with my almost 2-year-old and soaked up that season until a couple months in, I was like, shit, that was amazing, but I don't feel like me. Me is someone who's chasing her dreams outside of motherhood and being a really kick-ass mom. Me is on this mic, sharing these conversations with you and just being honest and raw about what it feels like to be a mom who's super ambitious, who wants to show up for her kids, who wants to show up for all of these other things in her life and doesn't want to feel like she's running around like a chicken with her head cut off. I want to feel happy and fulfilled. And to be honest with you, what I believe that our kids need most from us is us lit the F up. And that's going to look different for every single person. And that's also going to be seasonal, meaning there are some seasons of life that what's going to light you the F up is to spend and pour all of your ambition into just showing up for your kid, right? And trying to figure out why all these juices are coming out of your body and you're so sleep deprived and you need to show up for your mental health. And that's where all of your ambition is focused on that. So your career and your business, you're like, I don't give an F about that. And there are going to be seasons when you're in this family time where you just care so much about your tight knit little family. And maybe you're not showing up for your female friendships as much. And there are going to be seasons where your body feels different or you're on a journey, a fertility journey, like I'm on right now for our second baby, where I've had so many seasons where my body is just I feel weird. Is my body working right? How do I show up for my body? How do I feel energized and excited? And all of that, we just need to talk about it. Because if it's normalized that we're all feeling this way, myself, plus all of the women that I'm going to bring on the show, and even my husband, Seena, he's going to come on the show sometimes too. We're going to do a little segment like mom and dad chats where we're going to talk about the impact of, having a 2-year-old while also being entrepreneurs has had on our marriage, our dynamic as seasons have shifted with our fertility journey, with everything that we're doing, because I think a male perspective can be really awesome. And maybe this will be one of those episodes that you want to have a significant other listen into too, just to hear what it's like and how we do partnership together, because we both want to be really open and honest about that. But I just really think if we normalize all of this, then again, we don't feel alone. And here's the thing, I just don't want you to feel alone in this journey. I want you to feel like we're all figuring it out as we go, because you've never been in this exact season of your life before. Even if you're a more tenured mom, meaning your kids are older than my son, Brody, who's almost 2, or maybe you've got multiple kids. Every single time that you hit a new milestone, you've never done that before, right? You've never had 2 kids before, or you've never had 2 kids that one of them is now going into school before. You've never dealt with a certain behavior from a certain kid because your other kid didn't have that, right? It's we're all just figuring this out, and it's so seasonal, and where we want to pour our ambition and what facet of our ambition that matters most to us is completely up to us. I am so tired of the prescriptive advice that's consistency is key. You better show up to your business. You better want to scale. There are some seasons where you don't have the desire to scale your business. And guess what? Permission granted to do what the F is going to light you up, because that's what our kids need to see. Us lit up, honoring what our truth is, leaning into our season, because all of this, as you know, as a mom, or as you can anticipate if you're becoming a mom soon, or thinking about having that happen in the future, all of this is fleeting. 1 second, you've got this little potato and all these juices coming out of your body, and you wonder if you're ever going to sleep again. And then all of a sudden that little potato is crawling and you're like, I really need to put something over these outlets. And then that potato is no longer a crawling potato. It's a walking child. And then honestly, I feel like in the blink of your eye, they're running around. And I had a moment recently where I found my almost 2-year-old son in our shower, which is completely glass, and he had my husband's golf club. And it was super quiet. And I've learned already that if it's really quiet, then you should be worried because something bad is happening. And so all of it, it's so fleeting. It goes by so fast. So I understand the desire to want to honor it, but I also understand the desire to wanting to honor what you need. So if you're hearing a lot of this narrative around, attachment styles and how like quote unquote good moms are the moms that are home with their kids for the first 3 years so they don't F up their kids and their attachment style. To that, I say, okay, sure, show me all the research. That's great. But what I believe is true more than the attachment style that's going to help our kids be happy and fulfilled kids is that their moms are happy and fulfilled moms. So if that means that right now, regardless of the age of your child, you are on a rocket ship mode with your business or career, go jump on that rocket ship and take it to the moon and let your kids see you excited. And if on the other hand, you're feeling this desire, like I felt recently, to spend a lot more time with my son and also still honor my business, you're going to have to figure out what that juggle looks like and what your time's like, how you spread your time and really where you focus that feels aligned for you, not for somebody else on Instagram who's telling you how to parent, not for somebody who's saying, if you stay home with your kids more, or if you don't scale your business, then you're not quote unquote ambitious. I call BS on that too. What I believe is right is honoring yourself and honoring your season and what you have the desire to do. And also understanding that sometimes you might be in a season that you actually don't want to be in. Maybe right now, you are in a job where it has tons of responsibilities and maybe on paper it makes a lot of sense, but your desire is saying like, I need to pull back from this and I need to figure out how to honor that I worked my ass off to get to this stage in my career. But now I've got this tiny little toddler that I really want to hang out with more. I've got to figure out a way to do this. And maybe you're exploring consulting options or part-time. And I don't want you to ever think that just because you don't have the desire to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week scaling in your career, that there's something wrong with you or that you're not ambitious. You're just choosing to channel your ambition in a way that feels right to you. And again, on the flip side, if you feel like spending 60 hours a week working and that's what's lighting you up, don't let people tell you that you're not a good mom. And here on this podcast, we normalize the conversations where we're supporting each other as moms who, regardless of our season, right? Like we're not going to be the people that are whispering like, oh, do you see how much she's traveling? Who's watching her kid? Does she even care about her kid? I bet you her kid's attachment style is like totally effed up. And on the flip side, if someone's choosing to have a season where they're really focused on their motherhood journey and maybe they've burned down their business or, downshifted in their business, we're not going to say, oh, she lost her spark. Like she's not ambitious. I can't believe she wants to be a quote unquote stay-at-home mom now. All of this, right? Like if you're listening into this podcast, you are an ambitious woman who's trying to figure out how to juggle your ambition to show up as a present mom and have all of these other facets of your life that make you a whole, complete, happy person and honor your desire to build a fulfilling career or business outside of motherhood, knowing that every single season that's going to look different and your desires will change. So that's what we're talking about here. It's going to be raw. It's going to be honest. And I've got some spicy opinions about things. And I know it's like a sensitive topic when you're talking about motherhood. So I understand that some people are going to hear something that I say and you're going to be like, yes, that is my girl. Damn, do you have cameras in my house? Where have you been all my life? And some of you are going to be like, whoa, I don't know if I like her. I don't know if I like her energy. I don't know if she gets me. And to that, I say, my job is to be myself and talk about things that are going to make me excited and hopefully make an impact and entertain you and maybe inspire you or just make you feel like you're not alone. And if I'm right for you and this podcast is right for you, you're going to gravitate to it. You're going to tell your friends about it. You're going to post it in your mom groups. You're going to share it on social media. You're going to leave reviews. You're going to help me get the right women into this community. And we're going to do some really cool shit together. And if I'm not right for you, I trust that you will just gracefully exit. Because to be honest with you, I'm going to get into a little bit more about my story, but my previous show, empowerHER podcast, oh my gosh, what an incredible ride that was. I started that show at the very end of 2018, and I released 2 episodes a week for 6.5 years. In June of this year, I closed it all down. I'll get into a little bit more of why I did that, but I closed it all down and closed that chapter like completely. after, 6.5 years of podcasting and this huge, incredible community that was built from it. It was so impactful. It was so fun. It was so fulfilling. But I knew that I needed to evolve a little bit off the mic and swing the pendulum the other direction and just see how I feel so I could figure out like what the F really lights me up. But I remember feeling towards the end of that show that I had this pull to really want to talk about these types of conversations about motherhood and ambition. But I also was so conscious of the fact that a lot of women in my community by choice don't want to be moms or are on a fertility journey, maybe even for their first child. Like we're on a fertility journey right now. We've been trying for baby number 2 for 10 months, have had 2 miscarriages, and holy crap, that's a roller coaster. My heart goes out to you if you are in that season right now. And we will talk about that on the show because it is important to talk about like family growth and how we process things and all of that. But I was so conscious that some women in my community might be on a fertility journey or didn't want to have kids that I felt myself like feeling pulled to want to talk about these conversations. And then I'd be like, oh no, shoot. I want to make, everybody feel welcome. I want to make everybody feel comfortable. And instead I've realized when I took this 4.5-month break from podcasting, I realized I no longer want to make everyone feel comfortable because number one, it's impossible. And I can't fully be myself and say what I think about everything if I'm constantly watering myself down or thinking about wanting to make sure nobody feels offended. I might offend you. And it's not because I don't care. It's because I care so deeply about being authentic so you can see that modeled and encourage you to be more you and encourage you to do only the things that are going to light you up because we have one shot here. We don't know how much time we have, right? Like our days are numbered and we literally do not know the count. So while I'm here, I'm going to do the shit that lights me up. And to be honest, having a 2-year-old who is so fun to hang out with, like, I don't know what camp you're in, but everybody talks about newborns and like the newborn scrunch and like how they're so cute and how toddlers are so insane. And I love toddlers. Like it was almost like in June when I closed down my podcast, I was starting to feel a little bit envious of our nanny who was here part-time because I would want to do all the adventures that she was doing with our son because I just genuinely love hanging out with him because he talks back to me now. Like he's fun, he's spunky, he's got his own little personality. He can do more stuff versus like when he was a newborn, I'm like, you're cute. Like, here's my boob again. Like, you're cute. Like, I just didn't really feel like there was as much stuff to do. So I really have loved the season of having a toddler. And I've just learned so much in this journey. I've learned so much that I really just don't want to water myself down. And it's not my job to try and make everyone understand me. I just don't feel the desire to do that. And when I took a break from the mic for 4.5 months, to really hang out with my toddler and like also just ask myself questions, use ChatGPT as my therapist, have so many conversations with girlfriends and women in my community and peers of mine and women that I've been in masterminds with and all this stuff. Like I had so many conversations and I was like, I'm not coming back until I'm so excited that like it's oozing out of my pores to talk about this. So that's why I'm back and welcome to the seasons. If you are listening to this podcast, I also do want to let you know that while for empowerHER, I never did YouTube, for the seasons, I am doing YouTube because I actually have found that I love watching YouTube videos of podcasts. Like sometimes I want to listen to it because that makes more sense to like pop an earbud in when I'm like doing random stuff or commuting or whatever, right? But sometimes I actually just like watching them and like getting to connect with someone and see the video, especially if there's a guest or like when my husband comes on. If you and I have been connected for a second, you might know my husband, Seena, because we've done a ton of stuff in real estate together. We had a real estate podcast at one point. He's been on empowerHER several times. He and I have been together for 17 years. He's awesome. We met when we were 19 and I was dancing on a table, drinking Burnett's vodka, chasing it with Arbor Mist wine. And he looked like, well, he still looks like if Ross from Friends and Drake the rapper had a baby. That's what he looks like. If you go over to my Instagram and you see a picture of him, you'll know exactly what I mean. You'll never be able to unsee it. But that's how we started dating, right? So we've been together for so many seasons of life and now we're parents. And I'm so excited to have him on the show and do a segment with him because he's going to be sitting here. Like if you're watching this on YouTube, he's going to be sitting right here with this fun little wallpaper wall that we have in my seasons tree over here. And I think you're going to get to see our dynamic, which will be really fun. So why I'm sharing all of that is because I want you to go subscribe on YouTube if you like watching podcasts. You can find me at Kacia Ghetmiri every single week. There are going to be the episodes released at the same time that it's released to all podcast platforms. It'll be released on YouTube. And I'm also going to do some fun YouTube stuff. I don't know if this is like true to me or if I just want to scratch the itch. Part of me is like, would it be fun to create some cool like vlog content of like what it's like to be doing both in different seasons and like put out some videos? So I might do that. And maybe I'll start down the path and I'll be like, you know what? This is not for me. So who knows what's coming? If you're anything like me, you've got a lot of ideas. And sometimes you have to like just go down the path a little bit and be like, oh, no, that's not for me. Or go down the path and be like, oh, this is for me. And then that's when you keep going. So anyway, check it out on YouTube. I'm also going to have a Substack if you're someone who likes to read. And the idea is that each theme of the episode from that week is also going to have a Substack. And it's not ChatGPT Substack. It's actually me writing. So expect some errors, expect some grammatical issues. I'm not a really like a good grammatical person. I did just write a children's book. Actually, I need to take a second before we get into the juice here. I wrote a children's book called The Big Oops this summer. And it was one of those things that I just really wanted to do. Like, you know, if you have that idea where you're like, oh, it'd be so cool if I did X. And then you're like, oh yeah, I'll get to that someday. Well, I just felt this like spark start to come back in around like August. And I was like, I need to write this children's book now. So I wrote a children's book called The Big Oops. It has my son, Brody, as one of the main characters, and it has a cow named Towie. It has Momo, a monkey. It has Kiki the squirrel. It's like a fun little adventure of how like everything goes quote unquote wrong, but really it turns out right. A good message for parents, but also for kids. Well, I just want to say thank you for all of you who were so excited about that book, that bought it for yourself or bought it for your girlfriends or for your niece or nephew or whatever. That was an Amazon bestseller new release book because of you. So thank you so much. That was just a really fun dream and something that I was really excited about. If you are interested in ever writing a children's book, like send me a DM on Instagram. If enough of you are interested in this, like I can totally make like a mini podcast or something or a YouTube video and tell you more about how I did it, because it was just really cool. But I just had to take a second to say thank you, because so many of you that I've been connected with before from empowerHER or from social media that bought the book made it a bestseller, which is like mind blown. So thank you for that. Okay. Now I want to get into a little bit more about my story, partially because some of you are new listeners of the show and maybe you don't know me yet. And maybe you listen into this because you listened into empowerHER and now you're sending this to your mom friends and they're like, who is this girl and why is she so hyped? Well, I am hyped a lot. I've always been a very high energy person, but I want to talk to you a little bit more about my entrepreneurial journey so you can potentially like connect with me on something along the way. So let's take it from the top here. 2014, I was living in Seattle at the time with two girlfriends, and my then boyfriend, now husband, was living with two guy friends. He was applying to dental school and I was working in the corporate world. He got into NYU Dental. So we moved together for the first time, 2014, all the way across the country to New York City, which is one of my favorite cities. I actually just got back from New York last weekend. And it's one of those cities that just like puts a little pep in my step. Like I love it. Everybody's like chasing big dreams. You're like, anything is possible. Like I love New York. So anyway, we moved to New York in 2014. He went to dental school. I was working at Google at the time, and I was building my first business on the side of my corporate job at Google, which was in network marketing with a company called Beachbody. They no longer have a network marketing business, but back in the day, it was so awesome because it was like my gateway into entrepreneurship. I built up a massive team of like 4,000 plus people. That's where I got to start my keynote journey. I learned so much. I got to just like make such a cool impact, and that business really took off, so much so that I left the corporate world, Google being my last job in downtown New York. I left in April of 2015 to pursue that full time. And at that time, I was financially supporting my husband while he was going through dental school, while he was like emotionally supporting me, because if you're an entrepreneur, it takes a lot of emotional support to just like keep going. And so that was our journey, 2014 to 2018. When he graduated dental school and I had this online business, I'm like, we can live anywhere. We decided to not go back to Seattle, but instead go to Southern California. We lived in San Diego for a couple years. He started his dentistry journey, like as a practicing dentist. And at that point in time, I realized I no longer was aligned with building that network marketing business, partially because I just wanted something of my own. And network marketing businesses are awesome, but you don't own them, right? So like they could shut it down at any point in time. And I knew that in the back of my head. And we were making a significant amount of income from it. And so I just wanted to like find something else, but I didn't know what that thing was. So at the end of 2018, I started empowerHER podcast with the intention of it being like a come with me, let's figure out life together. I don't really know what the hell I'm doing. So like, let's just ugly cry on our bathroom floor together where our snot mascara, gets together in our mouth and we choke on our spit and we're like, what are we doing? And I was 29 years old at the time and I had so many big dreams, but I just felt a little bit chaotic. That podcast really took off. It turned into me launching a large membership and then helping 20 to 25 women a month launch podcasts for about 4 years. That turned into masterminds that I hosted and one-on-one business coaching. It turned into massive events called empowerHER Live. It turned into more of a keynote speaking career for me. And then 2020 hit, and my husband, who was a dentist at the time, he was forced to go down to like just emergency only procedures because we lived in California and during COVID, everything shut down. So we're like, crap, where do we want to go? And he was starting to feel like he wasn't sure he liked dentistry, but we're like, you know what? Let's go somewhere totally different. We went to Austin, Texas, and he got to try another dentist job. And I kept doing everything that I was doing, like the courses, the memberships, all the stuff. And he got into this perfect job with great like hours, great pay, great clinic, and he still didn't love it. So he ended up leaving dentistry, and we decided that we wanted to get into real estate investing. That was the thing he wanted to do. Fast forward 2022, we got married, we moved to Denver, Colorado, where we live now, and we really focused on the real estate journey. Part of the reason is because everything that I was doing in my business required me to be on, right? Like if I didn't podcast or I didn't do the speaking or I didn't do the courses or whatever, my courses were really interactive. So I did Zoom calls in them and stuff. If I didn't do the thing, then I wouldn't make money. And I knew that in the future when we had kids, I wanted to have options, but I didn't really know what I would want. But I was so forward thinking about that version of me that I didn't know her yet. So I didn't know what she would want. So we started to take the income that was coming in from my business because I loved it so much and funneling it into real estate. And we ended up building out a large real estate portfolio of Airbnbs here in Colorado. And we have a midterm rental quadplex, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So we build that out. My husband operates it. And fast forward, we decide we're ready to get pregnant. And let me just give you a little story because this could just be entertaining for you if you don't know this. So Super Bowl of, 2023. I don't care about the Super Bowl. Like, I just want the halftime performance and snacks, right? But we're at our friend's house and I'm sitting with my girlfriend Chantal and her sister Isabel. And we're chatting about how, it's so weird that I never really saw pregnant women on stages. And I spoke at all of these business and personal development events. And I'm like, where are all the pregnant people, including even my own events that I've hosted? Like there was never pregnant women. So I was like, that's so strange to me. Like the next event I host, hopefully I'm pregnant and I'll get to show people what it's like to host a big event when you're pregnant. And I'd already booked the venue at that time. Fast forward 2 minutes, out walks Rihanna to do her halftime performance. And she is so pregnant. You know what I'm talking about when she was in that red outfit and she had all those white sperm dancers behind her. It was like, oh my God, this is a sign from the universe that I should get pregnant literally right now. I'm not exaggerating. I went home. I peed on one of those clear blue smiley face ovulation sticks, peed on it. It was a smiley face. I looked at my husband. We had never tried to get pregnant yet at that point. I looked at my husband and I was like, oh my God, let's get pregnant right now. So, we do the things that you need to do to get pregnant. You know how that goes, okay? We do that. Fast forward 2 weeks later, I'm pregnant with our son, Brody. I'm so excited, over the moon. I actually was one of those crazy people that loved being pregnant. I also loved childbirth. I had an unmedicated birth in a hospital setting that was so cool. That is the one video that I do have on my YouTube channel. It's nothing about the birth. It's not the actual video of the birth, but it's my husband and I talking about it. If you happen to be preparing for a birth, you might want to go check out that video. A lot of people said they loved it. Anyway, beside the point, I counted the weeks as soon as I got pregnant and I was like, oh my gosh, my next event for 500 women, I'm going to be 34 weeks pregnant. I should obviously dress up as Rihanna and make a bunch of my girlfriends be backup dancers that look like those sperm things. So I did that. Fast forward, 34 weeks pregnant, hosted empowerHER Live here in Denver, 500 women, so pregnant that my girlfriend Chantal was one of my sperm dancers, the one whose house I was at when I told her that I wanted to dress up like this. And she thought that I was joking, but I wasn't joking. It was incredible. It was one of the coolest experiences ever. And I remember at that point, 34 weeks pregnant, I had in my head this desire to continue to model ambition to my son. I wanted to show him what was possible. I wanted to show women and I wanted to show myself what was possible, that you could host a massive event that pregnant if it felt aligned for you, which it did for me because I felt so great during my pregnancy. And at that point in time, I remember thinking, I'll take a little maternity leave. I don't really know exactly what I want to do next, but I'll take that maternity leave. And then I'm sure I'll just be back to like a rocket ship mode in my business again. LOL, that you don't know what you don't know, right? I take that break. I soak up maternity leave. I actually did a keynote when I was like 4 weeks postpartum because it felt right for me, but soaked up that time. And then I had a lot of the identity shifts that come where I was like, wait, I really like this squishy little potato. I want to hang out with him, but I also really still want to build my business, but I don't really know what I want to do next because I feel like I'm a totally new version of me that I really, really like, but I'm also pretty tired. The sleep deprivation like caught up for me around like 4 months where at first I was like, I'm unstoppable. And then I was like, help me, someone, everyone's so different and it's also seasonal. But I remember that beginning stage, I was like, okay, let's get part-time childcare. And I'll still build this business. I'll figure out what I want to do next. So did that for a while. I did some masterminds. I did some retreats while I was pregnant at some of our Airbnbs. I worked one-on-one with people. I did some VIP days. It was really fun. It was part-time. The reason I'm sharing that with you is because every guest that I have on this show, I'm also going to have them talk about their village and what that looks like. Because sometimes I think it's helpful to hear how are people making this work? When are they working, on their career, or when are they working on their business? Like, how do they honor their motherhood journey and what they want that to look like with their ambition? Like everyone, just does it so differently. Anyway, at that point in time, I had a part-time nanny who I loved, and she was with us for a long time. Fast forward to January of this year. Okay. So I'm working part-time, still building my business at that point in time. January of this year, we decide that we're going to try for baby number 2. And we get pregnant on the first try. To say that I was excited would be a drastic understatement. To be honest, even behind closed doors, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so fortunate. I can't even believe I just got pregnant on the first try again. Like, this is insane. Well, fast forward 6.5 weeks, that first pregnancy was a miscarriage. And my world was rocked, just rocked. And as soon as I kind of like picked myself back up, I was like, okay, 1 to 4 or 5 pregnancies are miscarriages. This is so common. So many women have been through this. It's going to be okay. I actually feel like I started to more deeply connect with women that were on a fertility journey, something that I had never experienced before because we got pregnant with our son Brody on the first try. And it just sucked. Like, it ripped my heart out. But I also I got back on my feet. Fast forward, we got pregnant again right away. Unexpectedly. I know how it works, but I didn't really think I was going to be like ovulating again so quickly. We get pregnant again, and I didn't have any anxiety about a miscarriage. And I know everybody's different on a fertility journey like this. And sometimes, after you've had that experience, you might feel anxious that you could have that experience again. But I actually had the opposite, where because I had that miscarriage, I wasn't anxious at all because I was like, well, I already had my miscarriage. So like this next one, it's going to be totally fine. Everything's going to be great. So I was so excited. And at that point in time, I was planning an event called Mom Party for 100 entrepreneurs with young kids, where we could kind of talk about some of the things that we're going to talk about on this show. And I had guest speakers booked. I had the venue booked, everything. And so I pulled myself back together and I was like, I'm going to keep selling tickets for this, even though I just had this miscarriage. I've got it. Like, this is exactly what I need. Community always makes everything better. And boom, second miscarriage. This one seriously rocked me. Like, I thought that I had hit rock bottom with the first, but the second one, it just like, as a really optimistic, happy-go-lucky person who's just like very excited all the time, it was like the delta was so big. You know what I mean? Like, I was up here, like in the sky, like, wow, I'm unstoppable. This is amazing. Life is so great, to just like rocked. Listening to a song called Bigger Than the Whole Sky by Taylor Swift on repeat, just crying every single night. I was so sad. I was honestly proud of myself for letting myself feel sad, because I think sometimes if we hold it in and we don't express those feelings, it bottles up and it turns into inflammation and disease. But I also had a toddler at that point in time. So I didn't want to be crying all day with my toddler. So I would like save up my tears for at night. And just every night was so tough. So I decided to cancel that event, Mom Party, refunded everybody. I want to tell you right now, if you ever have something that comes up, if you're honest with people, they just handle it so much better. I was just so honest. I told people I had another miscarriage. I sent this huge email to every single person that had bought a ticket, refunded all of their money. And I was like, I just need a beat. Like, oh my gosh, I'm just so sad. And this is so unexpected. Like I just didn't get it. So I took a beat for about a week. And then my husband, Seena, who had started a new company called Rent Up in January, came to me at the end of March of 2025. And he was like, Kacia, I know you don't really know what you want to do yet. You're not sure what you want to do with empowerHER. At that point in time, I was starting to think if I wanted to close the doors of empowerHER and like give myself a break and just figure out what I really wanted to do next, which turns out to be this. And I'm really excited about this. But at the end of March, he was like, hey, Kacia, since you don't know what you're doing yet, do you want to come into Rent Up and help me build Rent Up? Rent Up is a company where they basically, our clients, or not our clients since I don't work for Rent Up anymore, spoiler alert, but my husband's company, Rent Up, their clients are apartment buildings and they hire Rent Up to market those apartment buildings and fill them with qualified tenants. So totally different than anything I had done, but it was almost like because I was so low, it felt like it was this like flashy, shiny thing that I could just grasp onto that could pull me out of that darkness, right? And how low I felt. And I didn't know until now looking back that that's exactly what it was because I was so genuinely excited about it. I hired my best friend, Jackie, to come in and work with us and build this thing together. And it was amazing. And I was so pumped for a couple months until I started to feel this feeling that like everything was off. It's like I hadn't fully processed the grief of those 2 miscarriages. And I hadn't really stopped to say like, what do I want to do next? Because even during my maternity leave with my son, I still had my podcast going every single week and, my sponsorship deals, and I was still doing stuff. So like, I never really fully stopped, and I just didn't really feel like I knew what I wanted. I had this large community that I was so grateful for, and a lot of feedback of things that they wanted me to create for them, which was so helpful. But also it made me just think like, what do I want? I don't even know what I want. So in June, I decide I'm going to close the whole podcast down. I'm going to just keep building Rent Up with my husband, and I'm going to just do that. A couple weeks after I closed the podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not right. I think your intuition tries to nudge you. And then if you don't listen, it's like you get smacked in the face with a 2x4. That's what like the 3rd week of June felt like for me. It felt like I was getting smacked in the face with a 2x4. It was like, I don't want to build Rent Up. I don't want to do this. It's an amazing company. My husband's perfectly capable of building it himself, and he is the right person to do it. And I don't care that much about building this. Like, I don't want to put my time away from my son into building that business. It just didn't light me up. And I'm someone who has to be lit up about what I'm doing. So I kick myself out of the company, and he keeps building that business. And I swung the pendulum so far the other direction. I was like, I just want to be with my son, and I want to take a second to recalibrate. And that's what I did for the summer and for September. I really just stopped and started hanging out with my son all the time, taking him on adventures. I spent a lot of time with girlfriends. I spent a lot of time just pouring into myself, chatting with ChatGPT as my therapist, sending voice notes, being like, why am I the way that I am? What do I do? I questioned my ambition, which is something that we're going to talk about a ton on this podcast. I asked myself, like, do I just not have that spark anymore? Should I just like fully focus on being with my son, which is something that I could have never predicted that I would want. When I did that, I loved it. I had so much time with him, but I also just felt like I need to create things. Like I'm a person who wants to do both. I want the challenging juggle of being the type of mom that I want to be and honoring how much I care about spending time with my son. And that really matters to me. And no judgment if that's not the season of life that you're in. That's just where I'm at right now, where I feel privileged and honored that I have the opportunity to do that and build a business. But I don't know what that looks like, right? At that point in time. And I still am learning as I'm going, right? As we all are. So I decided to swing the pendulum that direction. I learned a lot about myself. And then I started to feel like I wasn't me anymore. I was like, I love rolling around in the grass with him. I love spending so much time with him. But like the me that I want to be and the ambition that I want to model to him is me being lit up. And I need to get myself lit the F up because I don't feel as lit up as I feel like I could if I was also chasing my dreams outside of motherhood too, doing both. I want the juggle of doing both. I want to feel what that feels like. I also want to really focus on my female friendships. I also want to really focus on my health, because especially if you're on a fertility journey, or for me, like after the miscarriages, I feel like I was just in this weird funk with my health. So I was like, I'm signing up for a half marathon, which I'm running at the end of November. I'm getting back into like really focusing on prioritizing my female friendships and my marriage. And I'm just going to like figure it all out. And that's where we are today. I decided to launch this show. I have so many business ideas of things that I want to create. And my hope is that along the way, through my story, through other women that I bring on the show's story, through my husband coming on this show, and your own evolution, which in some stages and seasons will look like me, and in some stages and seasons won't. I hope that we get to just celebrate each other. I can't wait to get to know you along the way. And as we're having these conversations around things that I know really matter to you, because I get you, I am you in so many ways, right? And maybe we're different, but we both still care about wanting to be these full, complete, happy humans. And we want to honor our ambition in all facets, not just in business, not just in career, but how we show up and what we model to our kids. We want to feel excited to be ourselves. And I just want to normalize that there are so many times along the way in our journey, and I only have 2 years of experience as a mom, right? But so many times along the way where you're going to wonder who the F you are, because your identity shifts, because you evolve, because your kids evolve, because your marriage evolves and changes, and everything changes in such a beautiful way and a hard way. So if we normalize all of this, again, then we don't feel alone, and we can have some fun while we laugh at ourselves, where I can look back at the version of me that in June, who closed down the podcast, was like, I don't even need an office anymore. So I turned my office and like where I recorded my podcast into a playroom for my son. And the irony is, at the time that I'm recording this, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see it, but I am back in that playroom, and behind me is a wall with amazing leaf wallpaper on it and this cute little fake tree I have and this one table. But behind my computer screen is toys and little trucks and a teepee and a reading nook. And actually, if you look to the side over here, is some trucks on the wall. And like, I'm in the playroom, right? The playroom that I designed because I said I wasn't going to need an office. LOL at me, right? There's so many different seasons that we're going to go through, and getting to do it together with other women and all the ideas of things that I want to do for this community that we'll build. You're just going to have so much more fun, because you're really not going to feel like you're doing it alone. That's so important to me, right? So to kind of tie this up in a bow, the goal of this podcast is to remind you that everything is seasonal. Everything, right? Your ambition, your energy, your priorities. It's going to sometimes look like some of your girlfriends or some women that you're connected with on social media, or women whose podcast that you listen into. And sometimes it's not. And sometimes it's going to be really confusing because you can't pinpoint what it is. But when we figure out what season you're in, I want us to own that season and see the goodness in the season, and understand that everything is temporary, right? As a mom, and in the stage that you're at right now, the sleep deprivation and the teething and the sleep regressions and all that stuff, it's temporary. It doesn't feel temporary when you're in it, but it's temporary. Just like one of my girlfriends that I'll have on the show, Lindsay, she always tells me, her kids are older than mine. She has 2 boys. And she's like, Kacia, this season of motherhood is so different. My kids are in school Monday through Friday. Like, they don't need me as much as a toddler needs me. And like, they're in school. So I can do whatever the hell I want to do while they're in school. She's in a different season. And she reminds me of like, that season is coming in the future. So my desire to show up to my business in different ways is going to look different depending upon the season of my kids and where they're at that stage, right? And just because a season looks different doesn't mean that you've lost your spark or your ambition. It just means that your ambition is being channeled into something different that maybe you didn't expect, or maybe that feels uncomfortable because it's new. And that's all it is. I don't think we need to beat ourselves up. I don't think we need to have this identity crisis. Although if you do, I get it. I've totally done that. But if we, again, normalize these conversations, then we understand that everybody feels like that at some point in time. And then if they don't ever feel like they've had an identity crisis, they're probably lying about it, because we all feel this way. Every single mom I've ever talked to has had those feelings of change, right? And you're finding a new version of you constantly. The goal isn't balance, it's awareness of seasonality, awareness of all the different facets of ambition and how you're constantly choosing what to prioritize, right? And success looks and feels different through these conversations on this podcast because we care about different things based off of where our desires are, right? These are going to be real conversations about all the things, marriage and identity and body image and relationships and money and transitions and people that don't understand our vision, all the things. We're talking about all the juiciness. And my hope is that this becomes your go-to podcast that just helps you feel excited that you get to do this alongside other women that get it. And I just can't wait to have some fun with you. So thank you so much for being here for the first episode. There's so much to come. I can't wait to get to know you better along the way. Make sure you hit subscribe on the podcast channel so that you get every episode. Or again, if you're watching this on YouTube or want to go subscribe on YouTube, you can find it at Kacia Ghetmiri. I'll be linking in the show notes my Substack, all about the seasons and some fun writing stuff that I want to do. I'm over on Instagram, all the things, right? Like I'm all the places, okay? But truly, thank you for being here. And I can't wait to be on this journey through all the seasons with you. I'll talk to you soon.